Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. And you? How's everything?
I'm good, thank you.
Nice.
What's new?
Not much. I was just doing some UWorld, some biochem protein stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I had been going over my biochem biochem diagnostic from Jack Wesson,
Hmm.
and just had to do some practice on that. So I was doing some UWorld, pretty helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I've been noticing as well that the like you say the caveman strategy for cars actually helps even with the other passages,
Hmm.
right? Like just highlighting sort of general things and then being able to fill in the gaps if I do have to go back. And even also, I guess, just like staying concentrated with the passage and not forgetting previous things. So
Yep. So, okay, that's awesome.
mhm.
Uh, what would you like to work on today?
uh, we can work on cars. I don't know if you think that we should maybe work on something else, but I feel like cars is the area that maybe needs the most help. So
Okay, let's do that.
yeah. Um, I'll share my screen with this passage. Uh, and so I think based on this calendar, we're technically still in phase one, right? Which is like the slower sort of accuracy focused part.
Yeah, I forgot where I wrote the
Um,
tests to start.
yeah,
In June.
I think here are the
Yeah.
phases. So I guess next Wednesday is phase two, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that refers to cars, or is it just like a general phase of just change in content or
Oh yeah, it's general phase. That means that you're going to start, like, you're not going to do like the a couple of cars passages a day in phase two. You're going to be doing like a full length,
oh, okay.
right? So yeah, that's what I mean by phase two over here. So like either blueprint or Altius full length, followed
Mhm.
by a blind review and a regular review. So starting phase two, you're going to be doing like on each day, you'll be either doing a full length, reviewing a full length,
Mhm.
um, or like maybe in between you can have like a rest day, or in between you can do more UWorld stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe, well, I was gonna say maybe some cars stuff, but I mean, you're going to be really doing that in your full length and your pack and your review of the full lengths anyway. So, um, but
Okay.
yeah, so it'll basically be like that. Uh,
Okay. And sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
yeah.
The this year, so doing a full length, reviewing it the day after, then doing a full length, that's accurate. So it would be basically the day after a full length, another full length.
Oh, I was saying, you could have like a rest day in between or something like that because that might be a little crazy. Um,
Mhm.
but it seems like I put in, let me take a look here. Um, I think I put in your, oh yeah, okay. Because you took some of the AAMC full lengths.
Yeah, exactly. I think that um
Yeah,
maybe
why
what
did I
I meant.
put it in this order? Like,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking the other day. Um,
uh, because okay, you did you did four AMC full lengths, right? You did the
yeah,
sample, you did test one, you did test two, right?
yeah. So I think what there's two left.
And okay, so I think what I did was I put the ones that you haven't done first, and then I think I put the ones that you did do at the end, like full length one, full length two, and stuff. But
Yeah.
you did those, like you did full length 1 and 2, pretty like maybe like in March or something, or because you,
Yeah, even before some of them, I think I have some like I have the diagnostic one, right? The unscored probably in January, I think it was.
yeah.
So I mean, I definitely don't remember much on that, like if I were to look through it, I don't know if there would be much recall that I could use to my advantage on those.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, yeah, I might change this to be like the AAMC full length that you didn't do at the end, and then just more blueprint or Altius tests.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because I think you can buy a package. I don't know if you can buy well, yes, you can buy individual ones, but I think the passage of like or the package of five is maybe more cost
Yeah,
uh
yeah.
you know
It'll be.
friendly than buying one.
Mhm. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna change these to be like, okay, blueprint full length 1 and or blueprint or Altius full length 1, and then I guess like review. Let me put that there. And then maybe here, second one, review,
Yeah, yeah, that's better.
then something like that. Whoops.
Yeah, so one.
I mean, like, this is definitely not, set in stone or anything, because
Yeah,
you maybe not will have you do like all 10 full lengths like this.
yeah.
But
Do you say that that full lengths are like the best way really to improve?
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely. Oh yeah, let me put in phase 3 now. Yeah, because full lengths will involve, well, it'll be like a direct simulation of the.
And do you suggest even with the blueprint ones to do them same sort of structure, 8 a.m., like identical breaks, or is that more towards the end where you want to start simulating the same conditions really?
I mean, like, how do you usually take your
I,
practice?
I took them at least the last AAMC ones in pretty similar conditions. So I would wake up early, whatever, have breakfast, and then do the tests with the like same breaks, and then I would finish. But um, I guess maybe it's a little tiring to do that. I mean, the shorter breaks and then you finish, it would be hard to do a blind review right after, I would say, if that was the
Do the blind review and review like the day after, because once you take a test, you're gonna
yeah,
be so.
yeah, it's 7 hours, so it's like
Yeah, yeah. So, but you were saying that you simulated those test conditions like for the AMC test, but what were you gonna say that there was some tests that you didn't do that?
yeah, maybe the beginning ones, maybe I was a little more flexible, right? I'd maybe have like I would spend a little longer eating lunch or something, or
Hmm.
um so yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would say yeah, to simulate test conditions to, if you're gonna modify it in any way, do it so that you won't have like extra time. Um and Yeah, and also you're like, I don't know if I said this before, but or probably did like in the beginning, but when you do these like either Blueprint or Altius full lengths, you're not going to do their car section.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
There's only really, yeah. What were you gonna say?
you think I remember seeing a video a while ago of yours where you recommended doing the Jack Weston.
Yep, yep. Yeah, when it comes to cars, there it's hard to find really good resources. The only really good ones other than AMC is Jack Weston. So Jack Weston has, well, they have tons of passages, but they have uh like practice tests as well. Um that are free. And there's five of them on the website. I mean, there's more than five, but the five on the website are the ones that uh would mimic the like actual car section. So what you'll do for those five would be like, you do your Altius or Blueprint CP section, and then when you get up to the car section, just switch over to the Jack Weston tab, do yeah, there you go, those exactly. So see how like the first five, they're like no whatever, they're normal, but after that it's like just history, just economics, just philosophy. Like those aren't going to be like that helpful. So at least for five exams, we can do this, um, which would probably be realistic. I mean, I put in your calendar 10 exams, but that's probably not good. Like it probably isn't gonna, we're probably not going to end up doing that many. But yeah, we have enough for five at least. And once we're finished with these, we can use um AMC cars,
Mhm.
like because you have like you're doing the diagnostic tool now. I wrote my notes for you like a check mark next to QPAC 1 and 2.
Yeah, I'd done them, but I don't know if I'd finished them entirely. I've erased them essentially just to restart them.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
I
So
mean, considering cars was my weakest section, I maybe that there wasn't much retained on those passages at least.
yeah, it could be like, did you hear that?
Yeah, yeah. It was my
It was, yeah, okay. Um, sorry. Well, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. So yeah, you don't necessarily have to like remember it to get like an altered score because you could get a worse score with like, proactive interference and stuff, um but yeah, okay, let's see what happens when we get to that point because I think if there's any way like if there's any way for us to not do something that we've done before, I'd much rather do that. So there's some other ideas that I might have that you can do instead of redoing some of these cars passages. Um, but we'll have at least, five, right? From
sure. Yeah,
here and from the third party full length. And yeah, I usually want students to take like, at least like whatever six
Mhm.
third party full lengths and then the rest of being, the AMC ones, but five is just as good and yeah, the packages that they'll offer would be like the first four, first
Yeah,
six, and then the 10 or whatever. So yeah. And yeah, definitely practice tests are the way to go. Like, because all the stuff that most of the stuff that you would need to work on would like autocorrect,
yeah.
like timing, all of that stuff. So, okay. Yeah. So that should.
Perfect. That clears a lot up. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Should we get into some cars?
Yep.
Um, I did want to note just quickly the other day. So I tried not another strategy, but I did so slow first passage, and then I went to Jack Weston. I did the daily passage a little faster.
Mm-hmm.
Same style, same like go through every sentence, highlight, and then in my head summarize it, and then at the end write a brief note. And I was able to do it pretty. I think it was like 15 minutes with the whole strategy, and I mean, it was an easy passage, but I got all of them right, which was satisfying. But
Yeah, very nice. On the Jog Weston passages, they even write like the main idea for each in a really short, nice way. So that could be a really good way to test like, okay, is the main idea I'm getting, you know,
Yeah,
similar as it should be.
yeah, that was nice. And it's super short. It's like 3 words or something that they did, 4 words.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. If it takes you too long to make it short,
Yeah.
don't worry about it too much. Um, but yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Good job.
Okay. Should I read these out loud sentence by sentence then?
Yep, the typical thing of that, and then you can tell me what you put, it in your own words and stuff.
Okay. All right. The new kind of synthetic novelty that has flooded people's experience, I will call pseudo events. Okay, so I guess they're making a claim here about a synthetic, a new sort of event that's occurring, and she's calling it pseudo events or false events.
Yep, yep. So yeah, anytime we have a term that, the author is going to be using in a specific in some type of way, we want to be aware of that. So yeah, some type of whatever synthetic novelty that has flooded people's experience, I see that as like has recently come into popularity. And the author is explicitly stating that they're calling it pseudo events. So um when I read stuff like this, like every time I read, so this is a new idea, right? Um and we want to know, like, if something's a new idea, same idea, modification of an idea. But whenever I read a new idea, I'm thinking as if I'm asking the author, what do you mean by that?
Okay,
Um, Pseudo events, I'm thinking, okay, what do you mean by that? And then the author should, you know, elaborate.
nice.
Mhm.
Okay, the prefix pseudo comes from the Greek word meaning false or intended to deceive. So now I guess this is just evidence for the term that she's describing, pseudo.
Yeah, not sure if I would say evidence per se, but elaboration. That's what you'll get most of the time. Like I haven't said that before, but like most of the time it'll be like elaboration, like explaining what's meant. Yeah.
So what evidence we would refer to then in that case, like studies or research,
Yeah,
or
because
or this.
that's what the AMC would consider. Like if the AMC was like, which of the following can serve as evidence, it would be like, yeah, like a paper or like a historical event. Sometimes, it could even just be like, an example. But yeah.
Okay. Nice. Before I recall the historical forces that have made pseudo events possible, before I recall the historical forces that have made pseudo events possible, have increased the supply of them and the demand for them, I will give a commonplace example. Okay. So I guess this is sort of just like a elaborate. Well, she's like further. She's showing that she's going to elaborate now on her argument or her claim of pseudo events being something that's flooded.
Okay. So, um, I guess they're saying, before the author tells you like the historical event or forces that made these pseudo events possible, and also before they tell you like what has increased the supply and demand for them, this person will give us some example, right? So far it's pretty abstract, but that's why that example will help. So in this paragraph, what can we write here?
We could say um, pseudo events, pseudo like maybe in parentheses false events, and then like an arrow pointing to flooding experience. Um, right, I guess that would be enough.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Good.
we could talk about the last sentence, but I think that'll maybe be detailed more in the following paragraph.
Yeah, so I like how you said like pseudo in parentheses false event. Um, that's a good way to like, mash words together. So yeah, I just put essentially that. I didn't have to put the example coming up, but I don't know. I just put it there.
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, right. The owners of a hotel consult a public relations counselor. I guess it's pretty self-explanatory.
This is then they're going into the example, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
They ask in what way they might increase their hotel's prestige and so improve their business. Okay. They're just saying they're elaborating on what they're consulting this counselor for, relating to prestige in business.
Hmm.
In less sophisticated times, the answer might have been to hire a new chef to improve the plumbing, to paint the rooms, or to install a chandelier or a crystal chandelier in the lobby. Okay. So seems like they're now going to make a comparison to two different times. Now in this sentence, they're specifying in less sophisticated times.
Okay.
They may have made, I guess it seems like more material like changes, right?
Hmm.
Uh, the public relations counselor's technique is more indirect, a recommendation that the management stage a celebration of the hotel's 30th anniversary. Um, so I think that they're contrasting now the approach of the public relations counselor, saying that it wouldn't be so material, wouldn't be so direct. They would do it through a celebration. Um, I mean, that's probably it, right? I don't know if there's much meaning beyond that.
Hmm.
Um, a committee is formed, including a prominent banker, a well-known lawyer, and an influential preacher. They're just now elaborating on the celebration, what they would include. It seems like they're padding it with prestige, um, just prominence of a banker, of a lawyer, and an influential. So they're using prominent terms, or yeah. And the last sentence: a celebration is held, photographs are taken, the occasion is widely reported, and the object is accomplished. Okay, so I guess in summary, they are saying that maybe we would say like up arrow hotel wants to increase prestige, new old maybe less sophisticated. We could do like more material or more direct, and then public relations prestige or like um yeah, I don't know how we could say like prestige oriented or like looking for prominence or padding up rather than like than actually fixing material things.
Yeah, I like how you did a really good job there. You know, the first the first thing about like telling me that they're like first using like doing like material upgrades. You did a good job in like, using your own words for that. And then you did a really good job on the second part saying that it's padded with prominence.
Yeah.
So good job. That's exactly, what I want you to do to be able to take all this stuff and like, kind of understand it in such a way that you can describe it yourself in your own way. So yeah, I just put arrow to the above, PR, hotel, instead of material upgrades, stage and event, padded with prominent people.
Okay, nice.
Mhm.
Okay. The power to make a reportable event is thus the power to make experience. Um, this seems like an argument.
Yep.
They're saying that yeah, they're saying that those two things are analogous almost.
Hmm.
Um, which it's an argument, and it's also supporting the
Mm.
previous discussion of the object accomplished.
Mhm.
One is reminded of Napoleon's apocryphal reply to his general, who objected that circumstances were unfavorable to a proposed campaign. I guess this would be maybe an elaboration. I don't know if this would be evidence because they're referencing a historical figure.
Yeah, I would
Uh,
say so.
yeah. So they're saying one is reminded of Napoleon's apocryphal reply to his general, who objected that circumstances were unfavorable to a proposed campaign. Bah, I make circumstances.
Mhm.
I'm trying to decipher what they're saying here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're supporting that circumstances are, or I guess no, Napoleon believed that circumstances were favorable to a campaign, right?
So it seems like so we have an argument that's saying to make a reportable event is to make the experience.
Mhm.
And Napoleon, this quote by Napoleon is kind of trying to illustrate that. Um, if it doesn't make sense, like right now, what I would say is to continue reading and maybe it would make sense.
Okay.
If it doesn't, then I can kind of tell you.
Okay. Um, yeah, I'll keep reading just in
Mhm.
case. Um, the modern public relations counselor, one of the many 20th century creators of pseudo events, has come close to fulfilling Napoleon's idle boast. Um, so I think here they're saying that the public relations counselor, they're relating them to the creators of pseudo events, um, is essentially agreeing with, or yeah, agreeing with Napoleon's perspective on that circumstances
Okay.
are favorable to a campaign or experience.
Okay.
Um, should I continue reading?
Mhm.
The intriguing feature of the modern situation, however, comes precisely from the fact that the modern newsmakers are not gods. Um, okay, so I guess this is just um, elaboration on that. I mean, I guess the past claim was an argument, right? Saying the public relations counselor is the creator of pseudo events, and they're saying this is intriguing because um, these people are not gods, despite making modern news, right?
Okay.
Um, and the news they make happen, the events they create, are somehow not quite real. Um, this supports the pseudo events claim.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the first sentence of this paragraph. The power to make a reportable event is thus the power to make experience.
Mhm. I think what the author is saying here is um, having the capacity to make something known, like the example before, right? Having a celebration, photographs, and famous people there, I guess, um, is analogous or to making an experience like the prestige of the hotel, rather than a material sort of change.
Okay. And Napoleon's so when a general told Napoleon, hey, the circumstances aren't really good, and Napoleon says, I make circumstances. What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, that's why I'm still struggling to see how it relates really to. I mean, I guess he's saying that it supports the pseudo events, right? Like, despite the reality or the material not being appropriate for the circumstances, Napoleon saying like it doesn't matter, we can create them ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. The way that I kind of see it is like if someone was like telling you, um, or maybe if someone says like good luck
Mhm.
and you say, I make my own luck, kind of like that. So so maybe in the previous example of the hotel, um you could improve the hotel's prestige by making these material upgrades. But to stage this event, it's
Yeah,
almost like, it's almost like it's not really like an event. It's just like you're making it something that I guess news or whatever could report on
yeah,
to make it an event kind of.
yeah,
Uh, so yeah, so I guess in modern day we in this paragraph we say that in the modern day that the public relations counselor
mhm,
makes these pseudo events and comes close to fulfilling this Napoleon's idle boast.
yeah,
Um, but something that is intriguing about the modern situation is just that the newsmakers are not gods. The
yeah.
news they make the news they make happen, the events they create are somehow not real. So it's still pretty abstract, but what can we say about this paragraph?
Uh, we can say, um, we could say public relations or PR, um, has power to, or PR makers the pseudo events, um, and we can say close to Napoleon's claim, or I mean, I don't know if that's necessary to add because it doesn't really summarize the maybe just public relations um, creators of pseudo events in modern times.
Yeah, I would say for examples or whatever, like Napoleon's quote here, two included in the map, just like as a little like IE kind of thing. So I put like to make a reportable event equals to make experience. For example, NAP for Napoleon, and then PR make news, aka or they also make pseudo events, but they
Mhm.
don't really seem real.
Okay,
Hmm.
nice. All right. So a pseudo event is not spontaneous, but comes about because someone has planted, or incited it.
Mhm.
Um, this is maybe another argument.
Yeah, because we still don't really know what a pseudo event is, right? Like the author says, okay, pseudo means false in Greek. Um, and before I say anything else, I'm going to give you an example. It gives us an example of a hotel,
Yeah.
and then talks a little bit about it with this Napoleon quote, but we're still like what is it really?
Yeah.
But now we
Yeah.
see that it's something planned, right? It's not spontaneous. So
Yeah.
that that can kind of help. But yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, typically, it is not a train wreck or an earthquake, but an interview.
All right.
So, like, this is just elaboration, right? So it's not spontaneous, basically, is what they're saying. There's just support for that.
Yeah, right. Because like a train wreck or an earthquake would be, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, it is planned. primarily, not always exclusively, for the immediate purpose of being reported or reproduced. Then we could just say it's planned for purpose of being reported.
Hmm.
Therefore, its occurrence is arranged for the convenience of the reporting or reproducing media. So this is just more elaboration, just saying that it's for the media, basically.
Hmm.
Its success is measured by the extent to which it is publicized. So we could say success, and that highlight success and maybe publicized, or success measured, publicized, right? So, how many people see it. Time relations in it are commonly fictitious or factitious. The announcement is given out in advance for future release and written as if the event had occurred in the past. Okay, so they're saying it's time relations. Okay, so yeah, they're just saying that it's either not true or a lot like a change of truth, right, or a lie, right?
Okay.
And the announcement is given out in advance for future release and written as if the event had occurred. Okay, so they're writing as if it had occurred already. Yeah, I guess, right?
Yep.
The question, is it real, is less important than is it newsworthy? Okay, so they're not really too pressed on whether or not it's real. It's more about, does it catch people's attention?
Hmm. Good.
Um,
Yep. What can you say about this?
we could say pseudo event, not spontaneous. We could say like arrow, purpose, purpose, related to yeah, being reported or publicized. News, we could say attention important or something. Attention important.
Yep, I put a pseudo event not spontaneous in parentheses, train wreck, earthquake, quack, earthquack. Planned planned to be reported, success equals publicized, doesn't have to be real.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so paragraph 5, its relation to the underlying reality of the situation is ambiguous. So they don't, they're not really too concerned about the reality. That's sort of just elaborating on that past sentence. Its interest arises largely from this very ambiguity. So that is really what draws people in. Concerning a pseudo event, the question, what does it mean, has a new dimension. Concerning a pseudo event, the question, what does it mean, has a new dimension. Maybe this is a new argument.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have to continue reading to understand by what the author means by what does it mean as a new dimension, right?
Uh yeah. Mm-hmm.
While the news interest in a train wreck is in what happened and the real consequences, the interest in an interview is always, in a sense, in whether something happened and in what might have in what might have been the interviewee's motives. So here they're tagging back to the spontaneity, and actually what draws people in. For one, it's the reality, right? Whether it's maybe the material things again, right? Like what happened and the real consequences. And the other one is, did this happen and what were the motives behind it?
Yeah, so for the previous paragraphs map, I just added the word interview because I didn't at first, because the train wreck and stuff was like not planned, and then the interview thing is planned. So the interview is like the pseudo event. But yeah, yeah, we're saying okay, so for like a train wreck of some sort, we're concerned about what happened
Mhm.
and uh real consequences. Whereas for an interview, it's I guess whether something happened and what might have been, and instead of real consequences, the interviewee's motives.
Yeah.
So these are all in service of the argument of, I guess, the reality of a pseudo event being ambiguous and interest going up, particularly from the ambiguity.
Yeah. Nice.
Mhm.
Does the statement really mean what it said? Without some of this ambiguity, a pseudo event cannot be very interesting. So they're now saying that the ambiguity is what makes it interesting, right? Almost supporting what they've already said in the first sentence.
Yep.
So it's like author support this, right?
Oh, wait,
They're just like adding another argue, or they're elaborating on their original argument, right? Of the ambiguity, the what draws people in.
mhm.
Okay. So then they're saying usually it is intended to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Um, I guess maybe what they mean here is um self yeah, I'm trying to see how self-fulfilling prophecy correlates to this. Maybe by not knowing, because a self-fulfilling prophecy is like if you believe something, then you act in a certain way, right? And most likely the events become true of what your original belief was.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
maybe yeah, I guess that's they're saying that that's what draws people in.
Yeah. And if it's not readily apparent, it may be as we continue to read.
Yeah. Okay. So the hotel's 30th anniversary celebration, by saying that the hotel is a distinguished institution, usually makes it one. Okay, yeah, so they're just supporting the claim there.
Hmm. Yeah. So it's like, um, yeah, if you go back to that hotel example, you can actually increase its prestige, maybe materialistically,
Yeah.
but that's not gonna work that well. But you could
Mhm.
just make some events saying, hey, this is a prestigious hotel, and it will functionally be prestigious, right?
Yeah.
By saying it is and making this event. So, okay. So what's like the argument in this one? In this paragraph.
We can say ambiguity of pseudo events um, makes it newsworthy, and then we can say dun dun dun. I'm trying to think of how to include the self-fulfilling prophecy. We could say like self-fulfilling prophecy, PR hotel. Maybe that should be enough to
Mhm.
recall what they were talking about.
Um, ambiguous reality makes it interesting. For example, train wreck, what happened versus interview, whether something happened and the motives leads to self-fulfilling prophecy. For example, hotel saying prestige makes prestige.
Nice. Okay, that's better.
Mhm.
Great. So the last one, short, it says in the last half century, a larger and larger proportion of popular experience of what people read and see and hear has come to consist of pseudo events. So this is another argument here. Um, just saying that in modern times, I guess the last half century, popular experience is made up essentially of pseudo events.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we said in paragraph 1, that pseudo events are now starting to become more popular.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Um, Last sentence, people expect more of them and are given more of them. A full explanation of the origin and rise of pseudo events would be nothing less than a history of modern America. Okay, that's another argument as well,
Okay.
I guess. Saying that, so there's two, they're saying that first one, um, essentially the demand is what drives the creation of pseudo events, and that the pseudo events is basically a cause of modern America.
Mhm. Yep, I put an arrow to P1. People expect more and given more, and this is a history of modern America.
Very good.
Good. Okay, now let's look for repeated arguments.
Okay. So I think the clear one is the sort of claim that pseudo events are uh, not spontaneous, right? They're like fabricated.
Okay.
Fabrication of pseudo events is one. Um, Another one that repeats in paragraph 2 and 5 is the sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, I guess, right?
Okay.
Um, Another one could be um, the reality of pseudo events, right? So pseudo events are not real. Maybe we can tie that back to the not spontaneous. And then the last one is that pseudo events direct cause of America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
So,
modernity, because they don't really say America anywhere else.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So okay. So what did you want to put for the main idea?
Oh, sorry. The main idea would, I guess, would just be like pseudo false events, not spontaneous, um, important for media, maybe, or drives media in America, or modern media, I guess would be the
Okay.
better.
It's a pseudo events not spontaneous slash real, but planned for, let's say, maybe planned for news popularity,
Yeah,
something like that.
makes
So,
sense.
okay, why don't you take a screenshot? I noticed I didn't highlight anything in the second paragraph, but whatever. We kind of have a good idea of like that example.
Yeah, I guess it was mostly just an example. It wasn't really much.
Yeah, and since it's easy to like really visualize, it makes it easy for us to kind of yeah, and you said it perfectly with the material upgrades versus the padding.
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. Let's try, yep. So let's see what oops, let's try this question now.
Okay. According to the passage, the essential difference between a pseudo event and other events is its lack of. Okay, so they're asking here for the difference between pseudo events and other events. So I guess real events uh, is so I guess without looking at the stem, we would know that the difference is the lack of truth or spontaneity, I guess, is uh, something that the passage was pretty clear about.
Okay.
Um, so a seriousness. I mean, it doesn't really specify. It does give an example of like an earthquake or a train uh, crash, but I guess comparing the seriousness of the two is not something that's not the essential difference between them.
Mhm.
The interest either. I mean, it doesn't specify interest. Uh, and they were saying that both really caught attention. One was, yeah, interest. I don't think is not the essential difference between them.
Yeah. What you said though, Well, we did say that one was more interesting, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think one was more media driven, right?
Like pseudo events should be more interesting, right? So so B would be, we can eliminate B for contradiction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, C, certainty. So certainty, we could just say that that's truth, right? So I would be inclined to go with C, right? That, that's really what they're saying here. One is truthful, one is not,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one is results. It doesn't talk about results. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it talks about results in the terms of pseudo events leading to the self-fulfilling prophecy, but not the other events, right? So that wouldn't be a difference.
Mm-hmm.
If I'd go see.
Yep.
Okay. Um, so the main purpose of the passage is, so I guess we summarized it to um, talking about pseudo events, right? Not being spontaneous, not being real,
Okay.
uh, and being used for self-fulfilling prophecy or popularity or whatnot. So we're looking for something along the lines of that. Um, to trace the history of pseudo events, no, that's not the main purpose. Um, to explain the variety of pseudo events, they also don't talk about the variety of pseudo events. They really just give one reference to it, maybe like interviews.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
C was to analyze effects of pseudo events. There's really no analysis of the events in terms of how people or how it changes things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then D is saying to clarify the nature of pseudo events. Um, I'm in between C or D. D is saying to clarify the nature of pseudo events. I think they are sort of talking about the nature of it, like whether it's relating to truth or not. Um, yeah, I guess I mean that's sort of in line with the main idea, right? Pseudo events are not spontaneous and real, and they're planned for popularity, right? I guess that's the nature of it.
Uh-huh. So
And
it's,
it's yeah, I would go D.
yep, because we didn't really talk about the effects of pseudo events, right?
Yeah,
And you know, in that first paragraph, we were like, before I tell you what pseudo events are, let me give you an example. But the rest of the passage, they explain to us what a pseudo event is, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yep. It'll definitely be
Nice.
D.
Yeah. So one can infer that organizers of the hotel's anniversary celebration would not have been pleased if the news reports. Um, so for this one, do we just look through one, two, and three, or should
Uh,
we talk? They would be looking for.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we would go through each. Um,
Okay.
just because, you know, if we didn't, it would be like too open-ended, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Mhm.
Okay, so they were looking for something that wouldn't have been ideal for them, right? So one is saying referred to the hotel's recent decline in popularity. I mean, yeah, that would not be ideal if their whole goal was to increase prestige. So one would be, oops, one would be ideal for that question. Sorry, it wouldn't be ideal. It would not be ideal. It would work for this question. Two did not appear until the week after the event. Um, I'm remembering it talks about that. It talks about the time
Mhm.
that they were reported typically as having occurred in the past.
Mhm.
So 2 would have been ideal, and then 3
Wouldn't or would have?
would have,
Yeah.
and then the exaggerated quality of service at the hotel, or exaggerated the quality of service at the hotel. Yeah, that would have been ideal for them, right? That's what they want. They want it. So we're looking for really just one. Yeah. So A.
Yeah. So like of course with the choices that can help you out with the Roman numerals, but that's why I'm blocking it for our purposes. But yeah, good.
Okay. Uh, Passage suggests that pseudo events continue to be reported because the media. Well, we know that in the last paragraphs they were talking about the demand, right? People want it, so they give it to them. So we're looking something along the lines of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The media cannot distinguish a planted story from an authentic one. No, it's not the media.
Mm-hmm.
Be responsive to a popular appetite for such stories. Yeah, that's what they're saying. C, lacks standards for judging the newsworthiness of stories. No. And D, want to curry favor with influential persons. Yeah, no. So it would be D, right? The pseudo events continue to be reported because the media are responsive to a popular appetite for such stories.
Yep. And I like how for A you eliminated that because you were like, that's not what the media does. Maybe a reader or
Yeah.
something, but yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, this last one, reporters' most effective counterexample to the author's indictment of interviews would be an interview with. So they're saying, and the question, the reporter's best sort of counterexample to the author's indictment of interviews. I guess would that be the claim that interviews are oh, I guess we have it there, right? That interviews are whether something happened and the motives behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so a counterexample to the indictment of interviews would be something. Uh, Maybe it would be the other sort of explanation, whether something what happened and the actual consequences of it. Um, so a police officer who had just witnessed a spectacular disaster. Um, so yeah, I'm just struggling to understand the question really. To say so, the reporter's most effective counterexample to the author's indictment of interviews would be an interview. So I here they're asking for a effective counterexample for the author's claim of pseudo event interviews.
Okay.
So we're looking for something that would reflect the opposite of what they talked about. Would a police officer who had witnessed a disaster um, be opposite of what they're saying? I guess. I mean, right? It's not whether something happened or the motives. It's just what happened and the consequences.
So uh so what's meant by the word indictment?
Indictment. I guess their indictment of interviews is like their uh, negative claim of the interviews, right?
Good. And you can in our map here, let's see if we can find where they mentioned something like that and what we wrote for it.
Yeah, I guess there's paragraphs 4 and 5,
Mm-hmm.
or was saying that pseudo events. Oh, okay, yeah, pseudo events are not spontaneous and planned to be reported, and that the success is determined by its publicity, and it doesn't have to be real.
All right, what about P5?
Five is saying that the ambiguity is what makes it interesting.
Okay.
Um, one in like the real interviews, I guess, are what happened and the actual consequences, and the other one would be whether something happened. The indictment would be whether something happened and what were the motives behind it.
Well, this would be like the train wreck would be about what happened, right?
Oh, okay. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But what would the interview be about?
Whether something happened, and the motives behind it.
And yeah, maybe I didn't make it that clear, but the motives are whose motives here?
Um, the motives of the person being interviewed, right?
Yeah, good. Good. Okay. So the author seems to be like, okay, an interview doesn't really tell us if something happens or not, and we can't fully trust the interviewee, right? So we would want to find which choice would weaken that, right?
Yeah.
So,
What
yep.
would the claim that we can't trust the interviewee?
Say that again. You said about the claim.
Sorry, one that would weaken the claim that that we can't trust or that the reader can't trust an interviewee. Okay. Um, so a good example would a police officer who witnessed uh disaster weaken that claim? No, I guess not. I mean, it's just based that's sort of based on fact. It wouldn't really have to do much with the motives behind the interview, right?
Okay.
Um, a young athlete who was expected to win a major competition. Um, would this weaken the claim that we can't trust the interviewee? Um, no.
Okay.
Uh, see a senator who was about to vote on an important bill. Would this weaken the claim that uh, most effective counterexample? Um, I mean, I don't know how this. Sorry, I have always these. I think these are probably the questions that I have the most trouble with.
You got
Uh,
it. Analogy questions. Yeah.
I'm
So,
reading.
so let's I guess like yeah, so let's check out the choices and look for things that are different, things that are the same,
Mhm.
etc. So,
Yeah. So should we start from A then?
uh, let's start
Or
let's start from D, just because we already kind of started from A.
okay, so D saying a national leader who has just participated in a peace conference.
Okay.
And we're looking for something that would weaken the claim that the interviewee is not trustworthy, right? Or looking to deceive.
A little bit, right? Because we're saying about the interview, right, is or rather what's important about the interview, right, is whether something happened and the motives of the interviewee,
Yeah.
right? So think about, like, I know you're thinking about the motives part, but think about whether something happened, that part.
Okay. Um,
Or
yeah,
yeah,
if they just participated in a peace conference, then maybe we could speculate on whether something happened. Um, I don't know.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess you could speculate whether something has happened if they're on an interview saying that they had just participated in it, then you don't know if that's the truth or not. It could be a pseudo event, like they're saying.
What about
And
B and C?
B is a young athlete who was expected to win. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess that could be motive related, right? And
What about whether it happened?
it hasn't happened yet.
All
Um,
right, maybe
or
that has something to do with it.
maybe it's um not gonna happen, or maybe it's not the truth.
Yep. So
Um,
since the author is saying that, the issue with an interview, right, is that like, okay, if it's a train wreck, we're going to be able to see what happened. But an interview, there's a question as to whether something has happened or not, in addition to motives. And you
yeah,
said that this didn't happen yet. So that if it didn't happen yet, right, we can still be asking ourselves, whether this happened or not, right? Kind of similar for C.
uh-huh. Yeah,
This
who's it? Yeah.
hasn't happened yet.
Mhm.
Now, you know, now with A and D, we know that this thing has happened. We know that the spectacular disaster has happened. We
Yeah,
know that a peace conference has just happened.
yeah,
So now maybe we would look for the motive aspect.
yeah, yeah. I think uh the motive aspect would maybe relate more to D, as why is the interviewee talking about this? Whereas a police officer, they're just reporting on truth.
Hmm. Yeah, who has a motive, a possible motive to give certain types of answers for an interview about something? Uh,
The national leader.
yeah, right. National leader will be like, hey, did you see how I went against this bill or whatever?
Yeah.
So for weakener questions, that they can be kind of tough to like formulate. But
Yeah.
what could happen, or what you can do is you can kind of just look for like what if it's like a weakener for like a passage, like what that passage or is saying, and then kind of flipping it. So
Okay.
for this one, for the interview part, it's two things: whether something happened and motives.
Okay.
And when you're looking at these choices, we realize that the whether something happened or not, eh,
Mhm.
B and C would represent because that hasn't happened yet. And then after we eliminated those and we're left with things that did happen, then we can kind of look at the motives part. But you could easily be the other way around. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, that would be how to go about it. Yeah.
Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd say by far, I think these are probably the questions. Sometimes maybe they're a little easier. I've struggled just like question wise with first understanding that it was a weakening question, and then after that, it was applying the notes that we had to the stem.
Yep. Yeah. So when you said these types of questions, you mean analogy types? Or
Yeah, analogy types typically.
yeah, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think that was the last one for this. And we still have a good
Uh,
amount of time. What would you like to do?
uh, we can do uh, I don't know. I mean, we could keep doing cars, or we can do U World or something. I don't know if
Yeah, are there any particular topics in the sciences that you're having issues with?
um I can pull up my Jack Weston diagnostic for, so the lowest one that I had, I think, was the
The
physics one.
70 for CP.
Yeah, it was the physics one.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Study Cuban. Yeah. Um, yeah, so see the physics was a little low,
Mm-hmm.
60%. Um, I did go like for example, I think it was on Tuesday.
Huh?
I went over fluids.
Huh?
I went over periodic motion.
Uh-huh.
I haven't gone over optics.
Okay.
Uh, and then I just did like a general quick review of torque and I mean this is only two three questions, so the percentage isn't too indicatory, but
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
um I went over just things that I had the lowest and things that I know that I don't know super well. Um
Yeah, what are some other things like that you know that you don't know super well?
um what I struggle with a lot, but it's not a huge topic, is electrostatics.
Mm-hmm.
um and I've seen some of your videos are very good to understanding like
Mm-hmm.
the almost practical aspect of it, not really like the formula so much,
Yeah.
but knowing if you change one thing, how it affects this series or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also yesterday I was using integrated
Yep.
rep for uh electrochemistry. I struggle with a little bit.
Got it. Got it. So, okay. Yeah, we could talk about some of these things. So basically, what can you tell me about electrochemistry, I guess?
Well, what I know is that there's typically two cells, or I guess methods of um, testing it or applying it. I know that there's the galvanic or the voltaic cell,
Yeah.
and
Or the electrochemical, they're all the
like
same. There could
yeah,
also be a concentration cell. I usually draw it as a concentration cell because that looks like a regular battery.
yeah,
And you essentially have this like membrane that doesn't allow the stuff on the top to pass through the stuff on the bottom. So, let's say that it's a typical lithium ion battery. So positive end, negative end connected by a current carrying wire. Maybe I'll make this like a resistor. And you have electrons traveling from this end to this end, right?
yeah.
And so this charge separation within the battery um is what produces that voltage, which can then cause which can cause electricity to flow.
Yeah.
And this happens until
There's no battery left, right? Until the charges are reversed almost, right?
so before it gets reversed, because a lot of times people talk about like electrochemical and then electrolytic, which is it in reverse.
Mhm.
But I always talk about the in-between step when they're at equilibrium because things will go towards equilibrium. So like enough electrons will go to the positive end to become giving it a charge of 0, and enough electrons will leave the negative end to give it a charge of 0. And we don't have a current anymore here. So this is when your battery is dead,
Yeah.
right? And so what do you do then? You plug it in to an external source of electricity.
I
So
guess it
yeah,
doesn't make a difference.
what
I thought if I scroll down, maybe it'd give you space to
oh,
write under.
yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. So okay. So this we plug it into an external source of electricity, so electricity starts flowing back. And this is the part where it can be confusing for people because of the signs switching, like the up here it's negative, down here is positive, right? But that's just because we're running electrochemical cell in reverse, and we want the electrons to coat that the previous part that was negative. So that's
Yeah.
why this will be positive, like momentarily, for the electrons to go to that positive end. But that end is still going to be an anode,
Yeah.
which means oxidation, which means loss of electrons. So this may look like it's gaining electrons because it is gaining electrons, but it's not being reduced because redox would have to be up in a redox pair. Like here, right? This negative end is being oxidized and the positive end is being reduced because the electrons from the negative end or the anode go to the positive end or the cathode.
Yeah.
But here it's not a redox pair. So it's not that the anode is suddenly becoming reduced. It's just that we are running the electrochemical cell in reverse to recreate that charge separation to get back to that.
Okay.
Um, and typically they'll give you like a chart of like reduction half reactions. So what would you like? Let's say something had like a value of this, and let's say something had a value of this.
Mhm.
Which one would be reduced?
Um, so the one that would be reduced, would be the one that charge flowed easiest to, right?
So it'll be um whichever has the higher reduction potential,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I was thinking, I guess that was what I was gonna say, maybe because I
Mhm.
was looking at the list in like a structure. I guess it was going from like smaller numbers to higher numbers.
Uh-huh.
And at least in integrated, they were describing it as like the fall off essentially. So like the higher numbers, I guess, have the higher reduction potential because charge is falls onto that number.
Ah,
Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling to remember what they were saying exactly, but
okay, okay. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I'm not really going into like the specific conceptual reason why one would be higher than the other, but yeah, if it's whichever has a higher reduction potential will be the one that's reduced, and that would mean the other thing in the pair would have to be oxidized, which means that the reaction would go in the opposite direction, and the sign of the oxidation potential will be negative the sign of the or negative the reduction potential.
okay.
And you can add those together. But oh, and yeah, so like cell potential could be the reduction plus the oxidation
Mhm.
potential. You might also see that with like cathode minus whatever
Yeah,
anode.
that's cathode minus anode. Yeah.
Um and what can you tell me about spontaneity of like so oh yeah, I should have said this so this is an electrochemical cell, a galvanic cell, also known as
Mhm.
voltaic cell, concentration cell, aka battery. That's just how that's a battery. That's how a battery what a battery is. And then the battery can die, and then you run it backwards to charge it, and that's when it's an electrolytic cell.
Yeah.
Um, Now the electrochemical cell is spontaneous,
Yeah.
and there's this formula.
The NFE one, right? Yeah.
Yep. So what the cell potential for an electrochemical cell, would that be positive or would that be negative?
For an electrochemical
Yep.
uh, galvanic, it would be a positive.
Good. Yeah, why?
Um, because if we have a negative delta G,
Mhm.
assuming it's spontaneous, then based off of this, I think is it the Nernst equation?
Yeah, I think so, or I think so, or that might be that this other one that looks a lot worse.
Oh yeah, that
Oh,
yeah,
it's
with
that looks worse.
yeah, it looks worse. It's too
Yeah, yeah.
complicated. I just know that like I guess the Faraday's constant was like 90, it's like 9600 or something, right?
Oh, like 96,500. Yep.
I guess that's what it was, right?
Yeah. Um,
So yeah, I guess based off of this, then if we plug in a negative delta G, we get a positive cell potential
yeah.
electric.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's yeah, that's pretty much that. Um, what else? Oh yeah, yeah. And then you mentioned I think you mentioned optics or something just
Yeah,
now?
I think before that I said, or after that was electrostatics, right? That would that be like voltage, or like charge forces and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
I sort of struggle with conceptually to understand. I maybe know the formulas well enough, but conceptually sometimes I struggle. Like I with Anki, for example, to differentiate the formulas and when to apply them confuses me sometimes.
When you're saying for electrostatics?
Yeah, I guess that would be like voltage and
Oh, okay. So you like
like the voltage equals ED, or when it's flipped around,
uh-huh.
and then, like when you compare
I opened up
that
a whiteboard. Let me know if you can see
yeah,
it.
I see.
Okay. Yep. So let's see. And you could see like my blue.
Yeah, I see your cursor.
Okay. So let's start with okay, so this is like universal law of gravitation here, right?
Yeah.
And it's between did I show you this before or no? I did,
No,
right?
I don't think so. I don't think I have the um Microsoft, whatever that is.
Oh, this is just Zoom whiteboard.
Oh, that's Zoom. Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Um, so okay, so gravity is between two masses. So I drew 2 point masses, and then radius is the distance between the two. Um, now if this little like light blue rectangle, like if you zoom in on that, let's say that this is Earth, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's say you zoom in on that so much that you're like on ground level, so Earth, appears flat.
Yeah.
Um, it would be like this. Like this is you on Earth, and these lines are the field lines for the gravitational field, and it's a uniform field, so it's the same everywhere here. If you used the mass of the Earth for M1 and the radius of the Earth for the radius, capital G is a constant. This turns into the 9.81. That's where we get that number.
Yeah.
And we typically think of it as an acceleration, the little g,
Yeah.
but you could also think of it um as the gravitational field strength. So just like F is equal to MA or MG, if you just rearrange it for the A
Yeah.
or the G in this case, it would be F over M, right? So you can also express it as 9.81 newtons per kilogram. And that means that a 1 kilogram object experiences a 9.81 Newton force within Earth's uniform gravitational field. So that's where little g comes from. And this is just introducing the I guess the idea of viewing it as a field uniform field strength. Now, now this is the potential energy,
Okay.
gravitational potential energy.
Yeah.
Now, why? So like how is it different from the force?
Uh, it takes into account um
I mean, just
height, height of
what the
core.
equations look like.
Yeah.
What's
I mean,
different?
what's different is the R squared.
Yeah, why do you think?
Um, I don't know. I don't understand the difference between. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I guess it takes into account distance on the top, so they cancel out.
Exactly. Good. Good. Okay. Now the Coulomb's law over here for electrostatic force, right?
Hmm.
Little
Yeah.
k is a constant. Q1, Q2 are the charges,
Mhm.
etc. And if you have some type of uniform electric field, kind of like what I drew here,
Yeah.
then just like the uniform gravitational field, it would be like newtons, but instead of per mass, it will be per charge.
Yeah.
So, so an electric field would be like the force in newtons, a particle with a charge of um, a number of coulombs or whatever, in that uniform electric field.
Yeah.
Um, and here I have this parallel plate thing, and I kind of go over what voltage is because that's kind of hard for some people to conceptualize. Like, what is it? So we also call it potential, so that can give us some idea as to how it's related to perhaps potential energy. But I drew this like positively charged particle, which should move in which direction?
To a lower potential, right?
Oh, so this plate or this plate?
Oh, it should move to the right plate, no, the negative plate.
Yep. Now
Mhm.
let's say you're here and you're pushing it against that electric field from point A to point B. Okay. So the voltage is the work in joules per coulomb of charge that's required to move this test charge
Yeah.
against its uniform electric field.
Okay.
So voltage at B minus voltage at A, which is delta V, but it's equal to the change in this potential energy per charge. And oh yeah, and then this entire thing is capital E, right?
Okay.
So like force, electrostatic force could be capital E times like Q. Well, it would usually be written as QE like that, right? Um, but if we wanted to turn it into like energy up top, we would just do what we did here, right?
Yeah.
Like this would be K Q1, Q2 over just R,
Yeah.
right? And then if you divide by the Q, so if you had the E, whoops, Q for the force, you divide it by Q, the Q's cancel,
Yeah.
and you should get an E, and we know that this is E,
Yep.
and we know that if you multiply it by D, you get the potential energy, right?
Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so that's where the capital ED comes from, where KQ over R squared is E, capital E, and then, times R would give you this, and then divided by Q gives you this. Yeah.
Nice.
So that's what voltage is and electrostatics. And Magnetism is a consequence of electrostatics, so there we consider them to be the same like type of force. Like there's gravity. There's really
Mhm,
four forces. There's gravity, there's electromagnetic, there's strong, there's weak,
mhm.
right? So mostly all of it that you'll see will be gravity and electromagnetism. Like, because everything else is a consequence of those, like normal force, buoyant force, frictional force,
Yeah,
um, all that stuff. Those are not like their own forces. They're like consequences of forces, um, but yeah, gravity, you know, which is a really weak force in comparison to like electrostatics. Like right now, we should be gravity is pulling us to the center of the earth. We should be there,
yeah,
but we're not there because the atoms that we're made of, their valence electrons repel the valence electrons of like our chair and stuff. So we're
yeah,
not going to go right through things, right? That's also kind of why like a metal can bend because I kind of like think of it as like, I don't know, like let's say you have a jar of marbles,
mhm,
you just put your hand in it, and like let's say your hand is like a piece of metal and you
yeah,
bend it around, you can like bend it in any way, right? Because the marbles will just move to
yeah. Around it. Yeah.
yep. That's like the sea of electrons for
Oh, okay, cool.
yep, yep. Because if you think about why do things break or like why do things crack like like a non-metal, and it's because like if you're moving something like for this pen, if I like made pushed up here and down here, or rather push up here with like my thumb as kind of like a fulcrum here, and like it'll, well, I guess this is like kind of like made of metal a little bit, but if it wasn't, okay, this one isn't. So if I did that, then the second the atoms will shift like this, their
Yeah.
electrons will not shift, and thus their electrons will repel, and so it'll break like that. Um, but yeah, so those yeah, so the four forces, the strong force. Have you heard of like the strong force or the weak force or anything like that?
Yeah, I have, but I'm not super familiar
Yeah,
with
you
it.
don't have to know these that much. Like I saw one question, I think, on strong force, but if you think about it, right? Like charges repel, right?
Yeah,
But a nucleus is full of like charges, right?
yeah.
Why don't the yeah, what's up with that? Like why does that
Uh, I guess because the maybe the nuclear force is strong enough to keep them to counteract sort of that repulsive force.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, it's the strong force
Mhm.
that keeps them together, and the strong force operates on it entirely in very, very small distances. So if you had a, let's say like we have two like circles or whatever, let's say that they're two protons, and this is the maximum distance they can be like apart from one another for the strong force to be larger than the electromagnetic force. And let's say I like, so this I take like a neutron,
Mhm.
and it's kind of hard to do this, but a neutron, and I shoot it here and it goes between, and as it goes between it should push these out a little bit, and if
Yeah.
it pushes it out like beyond that max distance for the strong force to supersede the electrostatic force, the electrostatic force will supersede and it will split. That's how you split the atom
Okay.
basically. So that's what strong force is, and weak force is just what's responsible for radioactive decay. Uh,
Okay.
But okay. So I went over that now. The circuits stuff. Um okay. So here, do you see where I'm at?
Yeah.
So okay, this symbol here is conductivity.
Mhm.
sigma, I guess. And then like this rho is resistivity. They're inversely proportional to one another. But yeah, resistance, we're talking, in like circuits now, is going to be, we'll have length up top and then area on the bottom. And now I kind of drew like this like
Yeah.
wire here with a cross section, and these are like the copper atoms. Let's say it's like a copper, whatever wire, and the green are the electrons.
Mhm.
And and then I kind of drew a side view here. So like as the electrons flow, they brush up against the copper atoms,
Mhm.
causing like friction, which is what, well, friction means that energy gets lost in the form of heat, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you'll get resistance, you'll get heat for this. Like if you imagine like the longer it is, the more copper atoms the electrons will have to brush up against.
Yeah.
Now, so that should make sense why resistance would be proportional to length, right? Now, what if we did something else? What if we increase the area of the wire,
Yeah.
right?
They would have more space to travel through
Mhm.
between those copper wires,
Yep, yep, yep.
so they
Yeah.
would friction.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So basically, I remember when I was explaining this, I was using this, like the Thermopylae, the Spartans.
Oh yeah, I saw the I like listened briefly to the video. Yeah, that their
Yeah,
strategy to bring them in.
yeah, right. Because
Yeah.
because yeah, like okay. So basically, up here,
Mhm.
series circuits, if you have resistors, you add them, but let's think why, right? Like these two are in series. If you add them, you get the equivalent of a longer resistor,
Okay. Oh, that makes sense.
which
Yeah.
means more resistance, which is
Yeah.
why you add them. But if you had resistors in parallel, yeah, you're essentially creating a new resistor that has a larger area. And if it has a larger area, there's more paths for the electrons to travel. So that
Yeah.
means the resistance would go down, right? And that's why it's a reciprocal sum like this.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
And two things about reciprocal sums. Another way to write it is like this, with
Mhm.
the product over the sum. Um,
Okay.
but also the reciprocal sum will always be less than each resistor.
Yeah.
So so like an example would be like, let's say resistor 1 is 3 ohms, let's say resistor 2 is 4 ohms, and let's say they're in parallel. Um, and then we have to choose an answer. What answer would, out of these over here, what answer would be best?
Uh, it would be it'd have to be less than each individual resistor, so it would be D, right?
Excellent. Good. Good, good, good. You also see the reciprocal sum in this.
Yeah.
So remember this from like optics and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
That's
one, it's super easy to remember. Sometimes I struggle with the application, like if it's a question or a passage, and
Mhm.
they're like, oh, well, like the object or the image of the object is shined here, focal point is here, and then sometimes you have to calculate the height using those calculations. It throws me off a bit, but
Oh yeah, that's that.
yeah.
In other words, for magnification or height or image height or whatever, right? It's proportional to image distance, inversely proportional to object distance, and um, like
Oh,
I have like a optics table that I'll show you. It's also shared in the drive, but in the
nice.
optics table, I draw like the object like at in infinite distance, and then basically the object getting closer means
Mhm.
that the image gets further, which means that the magnification gets larger.
Okay.
But over here, capacitors are kind of like sort of like going to behave in an opposite way for the resistors. So what they do is they store charge and they discharge a charge of Q per volt. So capacitance is Q over V.
Yeah.
And it will be proportional to area and inversely proportional to length, which is why um, if you have two capacitors in series, you're making a longer one, so that's going to be a smaller capacitance, so that will be the reciprocal sum. But if they're in parallel, you're creating the equivalent of a capacitor with a larger area, which would increase the capacitance like this.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is
And
that
fun?
that formula is like C equals area over distance? Is that the one for um capacitance? Like not obviously not charge over voltage, but for that the reciprocal one you're talking about.
Wait, oh, are you talking about this over here?
Is it C equals A over D, or do you just remember the proportionalities?
Oh, I just know the proportionalities here because the actual like you know to make numbers actually equal one another for the most part, you're gonna need likely some type of a constant. Like here, it's like this resistivity constant, right? So for the capacitance, it's something with a little k, something like this, over that.
Yeah, that's the one I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the primitivity, like that epsilon is like the primitivity of free space. And um, it's a constant,
Yeah.
but
I only remember the A and B just because I guess it's the proportions of if
yeah,
one there. Yeah.
yeah. So just imagine like this, but for instead of resistance capacitance, A and L flipped.
Okay.
And the
Yeah.
resistivity would be like that permittivity of free space type of thing. Um, yeah. So and circuit questions could get really hard when we're dealing with these Kirchhoff's rules. I mean, the branch rule is pretty self-explanatory, but the loop rule is pretty tough.
Always confuses me. There's one
Mhm.
on actually that I did the other day that's similar to this,
Yep.
where it's like you have two voltage sources of 10 volts or something, and then it was like
Were they like
yeah, and then there was a pass through then there's a pass through the middle, and then there was like on the top ends there was two resistors, and then in the middle there was another resistor. They were asking for the I guess the resistance at like point B or something.
Mhm. Did it involve like
Exactly that. Yeah.
that one? I think I may have gone over that in a video or something. You don't have that easily like
Could probably bring the U rolled up. Yeah. I mean, takes a minute, maybe. Physics.
It's frequency. Yeah.
Um, oh yeah, I guess it was.
I think I got it. It's question 9.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I don't know if for me it was question based or just I just did like a oh here we go. Yeah, I have it here too.
Oh yeah, it doesn't let so yeah, what's annoying about Zoom is that I can only make like 3
Uh
whiteboard
yeah.
that I can adjust. Is it this over here?
Yeah, that's the one I'm looking at right now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is tough. Not just because it's a junction rule, but also because we have two voltage sources, which could be pretty
Yeah.
Pretty nasty. Like, on the actual test, when you see something like this, make your educated guess. Don't spend too much time on it. But um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, for example, I don't know if you can see the explanation there. Like the
oh,
you rolled,
I didn't see
that's
what you put. Oh,
not that it's a bad thing, but it's just it takes a lot of time, I guess, to write all these things out and calculate it.
wait, did you um like paste something to show me, like for the explanation, or
Well, I can paste it though if you want. I mean, I guess I can just like screenshot it. I don't know if I could send it
oh, yeah.
chat. Yeah, I could, I guess. Um, and then like
Oh,
they just add essentially those two-thirds together to get the answer.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I looked at it and I looked at it very briefly. I couldn't really understand it, and I was like, I'm not, I'll
Yeah,
try to.
yeah. Yeah, this definitely would be, more work than, maybe we should give it, but but if we think, okay, let's think about the fact that um or rather, yeah, let's I guess, yeah, let's think about what happens here, like actually with without the um equations yet. Like, so we know from, like, we know that for, the notation for the battery, like the longer length one is the positive end, right? So this is going to be like this.
Yeah,
And then um current is in the opposite direction to actual electron flow,
yeah,
right? Like when I drew this, like I drew the electrons from the negative,
yeah,
which is true, but current is, because we like came up with test charge being positive first, so it's going to be the movement of a positive. So
yeah,
yeah, the current's going to be going in this direction, and this is going to be going in that direction. This goes through R1, this goes through R2, and they meet at this junction here where they combine, the currents combine. So let's call this current one, whoops, current two, and then here they I could call it current three. That would be current one plus current two. That goes through this resistor 3 here. And then at this junction, they'll split up again. So this will go back to being current 1. This will go back to being current 2, right? Right? Does that make sense?
yeah. That makes sense.
Okay.
The thing
Yeah.
that both point A and the point at the bottom where they split, or but right before they split, I guess
Yeah. What about?
they both have the same current, or because they've gone through the third resistor, then the current has changed again.
Oh, yeah, good question. So yeah, it's going to be the same. So this will be I3 over here.
Because that's like the junction rule, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Everything going in to a junction will be split amongst, the different paths.
Yeah.
Uh, it won't be split evenly because it'll depend on the resistors. Um, but yeah, you have I1 going through R1, hitting point A. We have I2 going through R2, hitting point A. They combine to make what we call I3, which goes through resistor 3
Yeah.
and comes out as I3 still until it hits that junction again, at which point it splits back, it splits back into I1 and I2.
Yeah.
So um yeah, and also I guess um do you understand like voltmeters and ammeters and things like that?
Yeah, a little bit. I sort of understand like that. For voltmeters, you want to have very high resistance. And for ammeters, it's the opposite, right? You want very low
Yeah.
resist because you want to measure the current at its full capacity, I guess, in ammeters.
Yep.
Uh,
So, um, okay, so I drew the ammeter in series and the voltmeter in parallel. Um, so okay, if the voltmeter had low resistance, what could be a problem with that?
it would prefer to take that route.
Good, good. And yep. And then what type of resistance would an ammeter have?
Um, I would imagine very low, right?
Because you want the current to go through it that goes through the resistor that we're trying to measure, right? So their resistances will relate to their, what would make sense with whether they're parallel or in series.
Yeah.
So okay, good, good, good. All right. So back to this question. So what can we do here? They give us the potential of each voltage source being 10 volts, and
Mhm.
all the resistors have the same amount of resistance, 5 ohms.
Yeah.
What would be the current that exits point A into R3? So we're being asked what I3 is, right? So how can we, yeah.
I guess, I mean, if we calculate the individual currents,
Mhm.
like I1, right, would just be V divided by R, right? Um, right, it would give us 2. Um,
Sorry, one sec.
yeah.
All right, what were we saying?
I was saying, I mean, we can calculate the currents, right? You can calculate I1, I2 just by using the V equals IR equation, right? Um,
Yep.
maybe that was my approach to it. I ended up guessing on this question,
Mhm.
but yeah. And then you can add the currents together.
Mhm.
I'm not sure exactly how to.
Yep. So let's separate this into
A
the
loop.
different loops.
Yeah.
And so for the loop one, we can have the we can essentially be set it equal to IR for loop one. And we know that this loop involves I1 and I3, right? So we can say I1 plus I3 times resistor 1.
Hmm.
And we can say the loop 2 would be I2 plus I3 times R2. And then we can understand that I3 is equal to I1 plus I2,
Yeah.
right? So we can say that this is I1 plus I1 plus I2 times that, which is just 2I1 plus I2. times R1, and then something similar here, where this is I2 plus I1 plus I2
Yep.
times R2. So that's 2 times I2 now plus I1
Mhm.
times R. And then we can oh, and then each of the voltage sources are 10 volts. So 10 volts is equal to, and I can oh, oh, and then the R is 5, right? So
Yeah, so you cross multiply, right?
yeah, distribute, right?
Sorry.
10 I1 plus 5 I2.
Hmm.
Then we can, I guess, divide both sides by um
But what are they're asking us for the current, so we can divide by 50 by 15. Could you divide by 15? Or
let's see, let me put this in.
yeah, I guess you can divide by 15.
So we have, so okay, whenever you have two equations,
Hmm?
um, you know, two equations with variables that are the same, we can kind of subtract them to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So, so we know that, so we can say then that, maybe I'll write in green, that or, okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to double this so I can
Hmm?
subtract from it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's yeah.
So
So
20 volts is equal to 20 I1 plus 10 I2 minus the purple one I'm going to do. 10 volts is equal to 5 I2,
yeah,
5 I1.
and minus, right, 10 by 2.
I 2 here. And whoops, we would get 10 volts is equal to 15 I1.
Mhm.
Um, oh, and then yeah, these will cancel.
Yeah.
So um, so now we can just do
Yeah,
the
now
uh I guess divide both sides by 5. 2 volts is equal to 3 I1. I1 is equal to, oops, 2 over 3. And we needed to find,
we need I3, right?
yeah.
I
So,
I1 is the same as I2 though, technically, right? Since they both have the same voltage and resistance.
mhm. Yep. So this could be 4 over 3, which is 1 and 1/3. So, yep, 1
Nice.
point.
Nice. Yeah, I not that made sense conceptually. I guess like it's a lot of math, but in reality it's not that bad. It's not a hard question if you break it down like how you did.
Mhm.
Thank you. That was good. That was super helpful to like see it, visualize it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. A lot of the times, yeah, you're going to want to like visualize it and stuff, and then save the formulas for the end.
Mhm.
And a lot of times it'll involve a lot of algebraic manipulation and then at the last step to plug in the numbers, which
Yeah.
is very much against like that's usually for pre-med physics is taught in a way where you're holding your calculator, you're reading it, and you're just like, okay, what do I punch in? It's going to be very different from that, but likely, you're not going to really see something this difficult, or if you do, it will be like one discrete question, but But yeah, all in all, the circuit questions and stuff shouldn't be too bad. But if they involve the loop rule, then it could be pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So
Well, let's,
yep.
figure it out. I mean, yeah, I feel like reviewing this a couple more times, I'll be prepared for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um,
So awesome. So okay, let's see. When do you want to meet next?
um, I think last time we met, you said you were free
Yeah.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Mhm. What Tuesdays and Thursdays?
Yeah, yeah, whatever time works for you best.
Yep.
Ideally not so late. Like, I mean, I guess if we could do it at 3
Mm-hmm.
or 1 works as well if you prefer that.
Yeah. Let's see.
Um, and then just I don't know, if I can ask you a question maybe while you do that, um,
Mm-hmm.
about testing strategies. I know it's not till next week, but just to sort of my question is about if your strategy would be to answer questions in order or go, I think like one of your old guides I looked at, you were suggesting doing easier questions first and then coming back to harder ones at the end. Is that still something that you recommend?
Um. Okay. Sorry, I put you in for Tuesday the 4th. At 2:30 Eastern,
Okay, perfect.
and Thursday the 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern.
That's fine. Yeah, that's what.
I'll try to answer your question. I just have like a student now, but you
Yeah,
said doing easy questions, hard questions. So it's hard. Well, we can't really tell right away if something's easy or hard.
yeah,
So what I would say now would be, if it appears hard or if it's giving you some trouble, make an educated guess, flag, move on, come back to it at the end.
yeah,
And, and yeah, that's what I would say. Um, because just based on the fact that we don't know right away if something's easy or hard.
yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, if you know right away, like if we saw this question, then
Yeah,
I would make a guess, I would flag, and I would come back to if I had time for it.
yeah,
So if you can do a like an appraisal of how difficult a question is from looking at it, then yeah, you could do that. But most of the time you wouldn't really know if something's hard or not. I guess for discrete questions also you can kind of tell right away. But,
that,
but yeah, aside from that, yeah. Does that kind of was that your question?
that makes sense. No, that's sort of what I had in mind.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So okay. I should have let you for that last whiteboard. Um, oh wait, that was just something else entirely. Or rather,
Cool.
yeah, let you save it or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe I can here. Does it let me? Export PDF.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yep. Awesome. So yeah, next time we'll probably do some cars also, and then if we have like some time, like maybe keep a running list of these topics that we could go over. Like today it was like electrochemistry and electrostatics and circuits and stuff.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll do that. I've been reviewing bio, so I'll have some stuff for next week.
Okay,
I'll,
awesome. I'll see you.
I'll, uh,
Yeah.
I'll send you the payment
Yep.
that
Hmm.
on, yeah,
Awesome. Great. So yep, I'll see you on Tuesday, okay?
fantastic.